You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. It's Monday again. Thank you for joining me for today's podcast episode. Here we are in the middle of another holiday season. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you don't get too stressed out. It's a busy time of the year, and I've learned how to simplify what I do, at least at this time of the year, to the best of my ability, so it doesn't become a completely stressful time where there's more to do and not enough time to do it. And thankfully, over the last few years, I've managed to create a type of situation where I don't find this time of the year overly stressful anymore. But I remember what it was like when I just had too many things scheduled, too many places to be, not enough time to do all the things that needed to be done, and was just completely exhausted that gap of time after Christmas and before the new year. And this is the time of the year where a lot of times we review what we've been through over the past 12 months, over the past year. We think about our futures maybe a little bit more from a slightly different perspective. And that's especially so if you're preparing for a life-changing relocation, or a life-changing relocation is in your not-too-distant future, in your immediate plans. Whether you're thinking about retiring abroad, starting a business overseas, all of these things can be on your mind, especially so at this time of the year, as you close out another chapter in your life. You know, there's different chapters in life. Some of them we look at from year to year, what different experiences you go through, like marriage opens a new chapter. Unfortunately, sometimes divorce does too. All of these different things, starting a business. And I definitely put relocating internationally all the way up there because everything changes. New location, new home, new people around you, new experiences waiting to be had. And it's so important that you have the right company working with you as you go through this transitionary period, because choosing the right moving company can make or break your overall experience. So let's talk about this today. I really enjoy this topic of international moving, and we've been talking about this here on the podcast for the last few years. And it's led me to do a little bit of investigation of what this industry used to be like compared to what it's like today. And yes, the international moving industry, like many industries, has come a long way over the years. In fact, I was watching a movie with Anthony Hopkins in it, and I forgot the name of the movie, but he played a character who was in the UK who wanted to come over to the West Coast to be in this motorcycle. I think it was Nevada, where they race motorcycles on the flatlands. And he was doing so with the intent on breaking a speed record. And so they had to pack up this motorcycle and bring it overseas. And of course, the unexpected happened. Well, it wasn't really unexpected back in those times because, you know, you would load your belongings onto a ship and more or less hope for the best. And it turns out somebody put something extra heavy on top of his cargo. It crushed his crate, damaged the motorcycle. And so when he got to his final location, he had to start putting the pieces back together again. And of course, there was no insurance or anything like that. Everybody would just look at one another and say, well, you know, here's your stuff. I'll help you get it off the ship. And whatever you do with it after that is up to you. There were some regulations, of course, in the past. I believe this story was told about events happening in the late 60s, I think. Somewhere in there. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But again, fewer regulations, not a whole lot of emphasis on customer service, unfortunately, or for that matter, safe handling. But today, the game has changed entirely. Globalization has brought us better logistics, advanced tracking technologies, and stricter customs regulations. And yet, with these advancements comes an extra layer of complexity. And that's where having the right moving company becomes your lifeline. Now, at SDC International Shipping, SDC prides themselves, the workers pride themselves on staying ahead of these changes. And so, working with a company like SDC, you're working not with just people who move items and move cargo, but logistics experts. So, we understand the paperwork, the local regulations in different countries, and how to handle even the trickiest of shipments. So what sets SDC International Shipping apart? So let's look into this in a little more detail. What makes SDC International Shipping a standout choice? Well, for starters, SDC is not a broker. And that distinction is a very important key to understand. A broker is a middleman. They don't own anything. Well, they may own a website. They may own advertisements, but that's about it. They don't own any trucks. They don't manage logistics. They outsource your move to the lowest bidder. So if you're working with a international shipping quote-unquote company that's actually a broker, you may actually be talking with someone who's speaking to you from their apartment. And while there's nothing against living in an apartment or even having a business running from an apartment, I wouldn't want to deal with an international type of move just by working with an individual middleman who has no real connection, legal connection, to any of the other pieces that are involved in this process. So what happens is a broker will outsource your move and pieces of your move to the lowest bidder, and that's where the problems start. So you may have several different businesses all involved in your singular move. You may get a cheaper quote up front, but you're risking things like delays, lost items, or even hidden fees once your belongings are in transit. In other words, you don't just have a single connection that you're working with from the beginning all the way to the end. Now at SDC, we do things differently. We manage your move from start to finish with our in-house team and our trusted global partners. We serve not just overseas, whether you're coming from another country into the United States, but here in the U.S., from coast to coast, all 50 states. So this means you have a single point of contact. You have clear communication, and most importantly, you'll have peace of mind. So for example, when you move to a popular destination like Spain, Canada, or Australia, we're working with teams we've collaborated with for years. Everyone from the port agents to the custom handlers know the process inside out. And this consistency with the same people working together, doing the same moves, this consistency translates into a much smoother process, much smoother moves, and much happier clients. Now, I'm sure you've heard people say before how cheaper isn't always better. And that's true. So when we talk about things like dollars and cents, one of the most common mistakes people make is choosing the cheapest moving company. And oftentimes people do that not realizing why or how that company is able to charge a cheaper rate. Now, think about it. Certain things that you look at from the outside looking in, they all look the same. But when you get right into the inside workings of the machine, that's where you can see where corners are cut, where materials aren't as good. And I mean, the list can go on and on. Did you ever buy something that looked new and shiny, but it broke maybe 30 days, 60 days later, a year later, something that was supposed to last at least several years? And so we've all done that. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you can apply this same type of mindset over to an international move. Some companies cut corners. Many companies do, unfortunately, in order to give these lower prices. They skimp on, let's say, packing materials, using cheap materials, which I don't have to tell you what can happen as a result of that. They use less experienced labor, people that aren't trained properly. Have you ever purchased a product or service and the person who was trying to deliver it for you didn't have experience? Just the other day, I bought another car and they gave me a single key with it. It was a used vehicle, and I brought it to a few local places to get a price on a key. And they were offering all these different prices from 148 to 200. And all I wanted was the key. I had like a little key fob, with the buttons that opens the doors. I just wanted a key that opened and unlocked the door, backup key, started the engine, did things like that. And so I found another store that did it for $79. And I decided, well, cutting keys is cutting keys. It's either going to work or it isn't going to work. And so I went for the cheaper price. Well, at the end of the day, the man that waited on me was in his 60s, so I knew he had to have at least some experience. It turns out he did have experience, but not with cutting keys. Long story short, it took 45 minutes to get the entire process done. He had to call someone else because he didn't understand exactly what he was doing, because that wasn't something he specialized in. And that's just an example. Now, thankfully, it worked out okay this time. I was able to start the engine. Somebody more experienced had to program the key so it worked properly and all of that. But now, take something as small as cutting a key and replace it with an international move. And instead of one person not exactly knowing what they were doing and having to ask for somebody else, imagine groups of people not 100% comfortable with moving your belongings or the details of customs, and the list can go on and on. And one breakdown in one area can cause a delay in all the others. And the next thing you know, you've got quite a bit of an issue on your hands. And what should have been a smooth process isn't. And that's what I mean by cheapest isn't the best. We all understand it. But hey, I understand just like you. I live in reality. I understand that everything's costing more. And sometimes paying more for something doesn't mean you're going to get something better. But almost always, cheap comes with a caveat or two here or there. Now, an international move probably isn't something you're going to do 36 times over your lifetime. It's something you'll probably do maybe at most a handful of times. So this isn't the type of service where you want to cut a corner. So we can see all kinds of problems happening, from shortcuts that people take to cut corners so they can get a higher profit, everything from damaged belongings, delays, or surprise charges at customs. So at SDC, we focus on value. So even if our quote is a little bit higher, the reason is because we don't cut corners. We use premium packing materials, above average. We employ experienced international movers, people that do this for a living, people that understand how to pack properly, how to create custom crating, how to move specialty items, how to move fragile items. This is what they do. This is how they make their living. This isn't something that they're going to do for one job and then they probably won't do it again for another year or two. These are the types of people that move all of these types of items day in and day out. On top of everything, SDC provides comprehensive insurance options. So you're protected every step of the way. And being that everything is customized for your individual move, then you don't have to buy more insurance than you need. If you have one or two items, which most people do, in the back of their mind they're extra concerned with, if you want, you can get insurance just on those items. Or there's a variety of options available to you, and that's the key. You have options. Now we can talk a lot about, because there is a difference when we talk about experience and when we talk about specialization. These are other factors that make a good international moving company. I'm talking about experience. Moving household goods internationally is not the same as moving across town. You're dealing with customs regulations. You need to understand those inside out. You're dealing with international freight logistics. and sometimes even country-specific restrictions. For example, did you know that certain types of wood crates may not be allowed into some countries? At SDC, we only use approved materials and create an inventory list to ensure nothing gets held up at customs. Specialization is also the key, whether it's shipping a car, relocating to Europe, moving oversized large furniture. Having a company that does this regularly will save you a lot of headaches. Now let's talk about stress and the concept of a seamless international moving experience. So at SDC, we look at it as we're doing more than just moving your belongings. We're managing the entire relocation process so that you can focus your energy on settling into your new home and all the things that come with starting your life in a new country. From offering flexible storage solutions to tailored shipping options like air freight for speed, sea freight for cost effectiveness, we can, if necessary, divide up your belongings, some of them going via air for speed, some of them by sea freight for the cost effectiveness. We customize our services to match your needs. And speaking of peace of mind, we're invested in top-notch customer service. You'll have a dedicated moving coordinator who guides you every step of the way. So if you have any questions about customs forms, timelines, your coordinator has the answers. Now, before we end today's episode, let me just share with you a real-world example of a seamless move. Lisa, one of our clients, she moved from Los Angeles to Mexico, and she was thrilled that her household goods arrived safely and without a scratch. Timothy, another client, relocated to the UK and wrote us a great testimonial praising our attention to detail, especially with his extra fragile items. And we've also helped countless families, just like yours, move to destinations like France, Australia, Portugal, and many other places. And these are places where we already have established networks, so we can ensure that everything from port handling to the final delivery to even emergency storage, if necessary, goes off without a hitch. So to sum it up, what makes a good international household moving company? It's a mixture of experience, reliability, attention to detail, and a customer-first approach. At SDC International Shipping, we live by these principles every day. So if you're planning an international move, don't leave it to chance. Give us a call at 877-339-0267 or visit our website at sdcinternationalshipping.com. We take care of the logistics so you can focus on your life in a new country. So that does it for today. Until the next time, this is Jim. Enjoy the rest of the holiday season. We think we have a few episodes coming up before the holidays, so I'll talk to you in those episodes. But until then, have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.